Hello and welcome to the SEO Huddle, first one of 2025. Happy New Year to everybody. If you're watching this not on January 10th, then please just ignore the Happy New Year. I have got my own audio coming through another screen. That was fun. So, yeah, without further ado, I'd like to... Oh, Christ, where am I? Oh, why does this happen when it goes live? So we decided to do this one live, which I've already fallen apart in the first 30 seconds, which is going to be a great omen for the next, God knows however many minutes and the rest of the year.
Setting the tone. We're setting the tone.
We're setting the tone. If you set the bar low, there's a lot to be achieved, and we don't have to achieve too much. So on this episode of the SEO Huddle, I'm joined by the original cast, so Cindy, Jono, and Gerry, all joining across. Jono's got a smile, which always makes me concerned. Since we're live, please do let us know if you have any questions or you want to contribute to conversations in the comments on YouTube. Alternatively, please do just feel free to listen to us all rattle on about various things. Today, we're going to be complaining about link underlining, the wonderful holiday Google updates, and also just going to touch on the MIT's article, which basically said SEO is dead again. Cindy, do you want to kick things off with a link underlining?
Yeah, sure. So I was very late to the outrage party on this. It's apparently something that people have known about, but in my mind, we're not adequately outraged enough, or at least not enough that I heard about it. But what's happening is I want to describe it and I want to do an analogy. I'm going to start with the analogy. It's very much like what link sellers used to do when they would sell you links on contextual sites on specific anchor text. And then they had a network of sites where they would just search for that anchor text and put a link to your site, whether it made sense or not. And so you would have these sites that were covered in anchor text links that all went off to other sites that didn't always make sense. And so Google has now replicated something very much like that in their Google iOS app. And what happens is it started out as opt-in and now they've switched it to opt-out. So every site that is shown in the Google iOS app that has not opted out has the potential to have these links inserted into their page, and the link will take you not to another page on your site or anything you own, but back to a search result for the entity that Google has underlined. And this is absolutely outrageous because it's opt-in or opt-out now. You have to opt out, and most people don't know about it. Like I care about this stuff, and I live for this kind of outrage, and I didn't even know about it. And I'm mobile oriented, and I didn't know about it until it's been going on for a couple months. Jono knows more about the history of it, but it's artificially inflating search traffic to entity style results, which is going to make it seem statistically like the long tail is smaller than it is. And like people only care about big entity oriented queries, and that people like entity oriented results. And it's going to probably help them train on entity, like get more details on these specific entities. Like there's probably a reason that they pick the entities that they pick. And it's probably because they need more training there. But then also it's so that they can show higher search volume for these keywords in their paid outfits, paid side of the business, and so they can send more targeted traffic to it. So they're double dealing again. And this is absolutely the problem with the main browser also being the main search engine. Only a monopoly could do this. Only a monopoly could get away with this, because the reason they get away with it is they own the search engine and the thing that's showing the web pages that show up in the search engine. And so they're just trying. It's so enraging. Jono, tell us the history.
It's fairly short. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like, it is really unpleasant. I think this started in early December, and I kind of glossed over it because I just assumed that's what you get for being an Apple sheeple, like the Android folks were fine.
Yeah, but it's indicative of what Google's wanting to do,
for sure,
and what they think they can get away with.
Yeah, And the opt-out form is like a really awkward link to a Google form. It's really really kind of not polished. It feels like they haven't anticipated people complaining or wanting to opt out. The whole thing's very strange.
I wish the DOJ, like, I want to like get this in as an addendum to some complaint. Like, this is problematic, and it's illustrative of the monopolistic problem.
Yeah, I think your point on it being a clever way to simultaneously inflate the search volume for highly lucrative terms and then drive qualified traffic back for those. Oh, chef's kiss. Yeah. I mean, if you were an evil monopolistic oligarchical mess, this is exactly what you would do. And maybe it's not. Maybe there's no intent here. Maybe it's left hand not talking to right hand, but it sure as hell looks dodgy.
Even here, even if it's not intentional monopolistic behavior, it's monopolistic behavior. So like, if you look back at like other big scandals like Enron, not everyone knew they were contributing to the nefarious larger plan. They were just doing what they were incentivized to do.
Yep.
And Google is incentivizing everyone to do anything possible to make shareholders happy and make an extra dime here and there every day.
So given we can see, you put you on mute. So given what we can see is happening, and like you said, we're going to potentially see inflation of search volumes and things like that. And we know that sometimes when data things happen, it isn't interpreted properly in the SEO world, and there's someone writes a blog post, and then 1,000 people write 1,000 blog posts off the back of one blog post. Just to kind of get ahead of the storm, what should we be looking out for, especially in terms of, hey, CMO's just found this blog post talking about increased short tail as opposed to long tail. How do we combat this? Yes, Cindy.
So this is where it's even more nefarious, because Apple strictly limits the data that goes back to Google about specific search queries. So everything in the Apple ecosystem has always been, or not always, but for the longest time been not provided. And so only Google knows this information. And if you're in the EU, browsers and that are limiting information about what happens in them to other players in the ecosystem, that's actually illegal according to EU law. And so this is part of that. They're leveraging their ownership of the market to hoard data so that they can be better and better, and no one else has enough data to compete.
One more interesting moving part. You mentioned at the beginning the affiliate angle, where historically this kind of thing would manifest as people with affiliate links. That's still very much a thing. Skim Links is still very much a business that provides that kind of service. I wonder how many sites running Skim Links and or similar stuff are going to find that their revenue has tanked significantly because they're now competing with these or other types of links. Is this going to actively harm the open web? That's quite interesting.
See, I
mean, those sites aren't great quality, but they're still going to hurt.
I don't mind skim links because, you know, as a webmaster, I'm deliberately putting these affiliate links on my website to kind of monetize the website, to pay for the hosting, to pay for the Cloudflare account, to pay for everything. I mean, people have to remember that, you know, nobody runs websites. Well, we all run websites for free because we're nerds, but basically big businesses don't really run websites for free. They cost money. You know, Jono, you've got days of the year. You put advertising on it, you put marketing on it, you put affiliate links, you sell things on it and everything. You know, Dan, you've got a number of websites I won't go into, but, you know, let's talk about the sausage one. What I'm getting at is people run websites for reasons of both business and profit, and skim links is fine. But this injecting it into webmasters' websites without any financial reward and you know, just basically stealing their traffic effectively. And often as a user, I wouldn't fully understand that this link that says banking deals that goes off to a website about banking deals isn't actually inserted by the webmaster as an actual helpful intentional link. So it's totally against how the web should be treated by a browser. Wow, I'm starting to sound like Cindy. This is worrying.
I was going to say, I've not heard you say this much sense for quite a while.
But it's also a bad user experience. Like, Google can't do this and argue that paid links are a bad user experience, because at least they get you to a website with, you know, information that you presumably want. If it's at least at all editorial, but sending someone back to a search result is not especially editorial.
I do very much enjoy the fact that Google have one rule for everyone else and one rule for themselves. And, you know, I mean, we all see it ourselves. Basically, every time we get spam saying, hey, do you want to buy our SEO services hosted on Google, on a Google website? It's terrible just how much Google are not responsible for their own mess, but basically trying to police everyone else's web.
Yeah. So we should mention that there's a petition about this that you can sign on. We can find the link. I'll find the link and put it in for you guys. But we should. It's probably not going to do any good, but you may as well express your distaste.
So back to the SEO mantra of angry man shouts at cloud, waving fist again, basically, for what we can do for the cloud space. I mean, it is interesting that they are in, for me, and going back to what kind of Jono pulled out from what you said about the whole affiliate side of things, but we have just seen the big parasite spam SEO update, and seemingly a lot of that kind of get obliterated, and then this kind of creeping in. It does, my view on it, it kind of does feel like with like things like the DMA dampening their proficiency in travel, say across Europe. It almost feels like we're losing $10 here, how can we get $10 elsewhere kind of thing as well. And it even if it is not intentionally monopolistic, it's antagonistic at best, monopolistic at worst.
Yeah, and we know that kind of behavior exists, right? All the stuff out of the leaked historical documents about the AdWords guys saying, oh, can you just make the results a little bit worse so we can hit our quotas? Those kinds of conversations about where do we find that extra $10 definitely happen. So this is, yeah, almost certainly somebody's clever side project that's gone rogue.
It is great that the richest company in the world wants a few more pennies here, there, and everywhere. But I think that's why they became the richest company in the world. So, you know.
So I'm just dropping a link to the petition that Cindy mentioned in the YouTube chat.
It's interesting framed against the backdrop of the bigger picture of content ownership, right? Because we've kind of all accepted that now when we publish stuff on the web, even on our own websites, it's kind of up for grabs by Google, the SERPs, ChatGPT, everything else, and that's tough and there's nothing we can do about it. And they're going to transform it and smush it, and maybe we get a citation if we're lucky. Okay, we have to deal with that. But now this extra step to go, even the content on your site in your own ecosystem is no longer sacrosanct. That's an interesting step into a whole new territory.
Yeah. Your site's not sacrosanct, and we'll do whatever we want with it.
Yeah.
And you have to opt out of that.
Yeah.
It feels okay when it's a Chrome plugin that somebody has installed to do something very deliberate, to do something themselves. Like I've got Chrome plugins which will highlight links or do something, or you know, it will basically manipulate the content on my behalf as the browser owner. But for the browser themselves to be doing it on everybody else's systems, opt in, opt out, whatever, it just feels very different.
Malware. It feels like malware.
Yeah.
But it's
malware that's making someone money.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Kennedy in the YouTube comments actually put one in, which if I can find it, I'll throw it up. People are commenting. Who's just now saying, no, it's Alyssa. But yeah, he just seemed he'd been hacked without sense. But it's something we've seen over a long period of time in that way. And I'm trying to find the example now to see if it happens. But I've known a number of random websites to employ this topic previously. I think in the UK, Leeds United, a professional soccer football team, for those who aren't their favourites. But I know John is going to crank his head and antagonise people. Stop fishing with bait. But in all their kind of blog posts and news posts, they used to have just random words highlighted, and they were kind of like an affiliate link thing. And that was happening for years, and it was just random. And yeah, it just feels like the same thing. Like like my stepmom has it at the moment, where someone keeps injecting her laptop with something where she'll perform a search on Google and it'll redirect to a random affiliate link and redirect to Yahoo. And it's a known tracer thing. And she didn't realize for 3 months she was using Yahoo and not Google, but she did complain the results were worse, to be fair. But
well, and in the example that I tweeted, there's a screenshot, and someone mentions the website or the brand Search Engine Land. And Google decided to link on search engine. So they're highlighting what could have been a branded result. They could have done a search to Search Engine Land and at least got you more brand information about the brand that's relevant, but they didn't. They broke up the words, even though they're all capitalized, and its LLM should be able to tell that that's a brand name. It broke it up, right? So if we were doing build a bear, blah, blah, blah blog post, they could just link on bear instead of build a bear. And like bear is not relevant to the, like a grizzly bear is not relevant to the build a bear audience.
No, that's better. It's literally taking out. I mean, you definitely don't want a kid ordering a grizzly bear. Let's just go with that.
If you're on a music website, bare naked ladies could take you somewhere highly inappropriate.
I think music websites have a propensity potential for multiple inappropriate links there. Before we move on to the next topic, does anyone have any final closing thoughts, statements, panics they want to bemoan about Google's antagonistic underlinings?
Yes, somebody should check what the markup looks like for these and track clicks on them. Like presuming it adds a class and some kind of structure, that should be doable.
Oh yeah, they should.
Yeah.
The other thing is just what Jono was touching on, and we've kind of been touching on this in some of our other episodes before, and Mike mentioned this on a podcast I was on with him yesterday, is that the social contract between SEOs and Google has changed. And even the social contract between Google and Krum users has changed. And it used to be that SEOs and websites would create content and allow Google to crawl them so that Google could rank them and get them traffic. Now we allow Google to crawl, but they're sending less traffic. And now they're hijacking our content to put more links back to get them more traffic and not us. That's a different social contract than what all of us started our careers with by a lot.
Yeah, the nail is very hit hard on the head there. I think the social contract we started with Google with 10 plus years ago is very different to the social contract we've got now.
And same to users. It's a different contract for the users as well, because Google didn't start by exploiting every possible understanding for like privacy violation wise. Like they weren't as hoardy with their data. They were a bit more open with sharing data, and like we had keywords provided and stuff like that. Like it was a much less kind of jerky way of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's almost like they realized the value in what that data held and decided that if they can, it's almost a reverse of what Musk did with the patents. Musk realized for the industry to grow, he needed to release all the Tesla patents out there for people to expand the industry. Google realized they could do the opposite and get greater control of the money a little bit more. And yeah, it's a very different world to what it was even 5 years ago.
I'm done.
So moving on from that cherry topic, CES. I know people want to touch on a few things. Gerry, do you want to get the ball rolling there?
No, I just think CES is going more and more Black Mirror every time I find anything. It's amazing. I've just seen this rolling vacuum cleaner that can talk to you. I've seen some VR stuff. I love the VR stuff, and I can't help feeling like, I've been saying for a long while, AR is going to be huge soon, and I think that's really close, especially now that Google's just released a new operating system for augmented reality glasses, and Samsung are all over it. But yeah, in the CES world, I haven't seen anything that's made me go, oh wow, except for there's oddities, but nothing's made me kind of go, wow, that's something totally amazing. I'm just wondering what Jono's been talking about with somebody.
No, same conclusions. It's all a bit gimmicky. Like there's a lot of focus on the transparent screens and things, which I can't for the life of me think of the use case. Like so many indoor spaces are designed to have working spaces that are next to a wall or opposite somebody else. And suddenly if my monitor's transparent, what am I looking at? Like the wallpaper behind my screen? Also saw, thinking of vacuum cleaners, there was a nice Roomba thing with a hand that comes out and picks up socks in the way. That was good. But yeah, there's nothing that's transformative other than, as you say, this continued promise that AR is eventually going to be a thing, right? So all the smart glasses are theoretically going to start getting HUDs this year. which will be transformative, but it's still the same promise we've had for 20 years now. We're almost living in the future, and then it just doesn't quite get there. Like you said just now, you were 2 minutes late to this recording because you set an alarm when it went off in the wrong room. And you have this continued narrative of, all I want to do is use my smart device to turn the lights on, and it doesn't believe me, it argues with me, it puts them on in the wrong house, it turns the wrong one. Like, we're so far off. And CES has a lot of promises of flashy, shiny new tech, but yeah, none of it's particularly compelling.
When I'm playing computer games with friends, they love the fact that they can say, okay, Google, turn off the lights, and all my lights turn off.
Don't say that.
Sorry, I've probably just done that for like half the audience. Apologies.
I haven't been following CES this as much as you guys, but I have kind of come to the same conclusion, is that there's nothing groundbreaking. The AR VR stuff, you know, I think is problematic for the ideas that you brought up, but also the ideas that, like, with things like the Meta glasses, like there's so many permissions issues with, like, no one that is in your field of vision has agreed to be filmed or have that go up online in some kind of live stream or whatever. Like, TV companies have to get people to sign waivers to interview someone on the news. So I think it's a new and uncharted space, and that's interesting. But nothing too groundbreaking and really nothing too exciting. And I can't for the life of me think, like, I have a pair of the Meta glasses. I don't know how I would use them. Like, I can't think of a good use case unless I was like doing some craft project and I wanted to share that.
I do think I'm going to argue with you on this one. Okay. I think the Meta AI integrated in, and the accessibility, availability, and there's an absolute ton, because the Meta AI integrated with the cameras, from what I've seen, is phenomenally good. And I think one of the most exciting things is the accessibility feature. Like, if somebody's like has partial sight and they can say, what am I holding in my hand? What color is it? What do I need to do? Where do I go? There's huge amounts of potential with that. And it doesn't have a display built into it. It's just playing something in your ears and stuff. And, you know, if you're going scuba diving and you're on a boat, you can use it as a pair of headphones and you can be chilled out and relaxed. And, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for it. I'm actually a big fan of these things. I do understand the implication of constantly videoing everybody and the ability for it to start to tag people and tag things. That does raise some questions, particularly when people are always uncomfortable when, you know, you're at a conference and somebody's walking around video camera and Jono and Cindy are in a corner moaning about something that's, you know, maybe doesn't want to be shared on the internet or shared on Instagram 10 minutes later. It does kind of raise those questions. But at the same time, from my side of it, I would love a pair just purely and simply to be able to listen to music, use the AI, and do all of those kind of elements where it kind of integrates smartly into my life, because I have a terrible memory for stuff. And if I say, remind me in 20 minutes to come on a podcast, it will do it.
The best use case I can think of is arguing at the airport when a bag is lost or a flight is canceled, so I can get the people telling me, oh no, we can't do anything for you, or oh no, we can't get you home for 2 weeks or whatever, like evidence. But that's a horrible life to live. Like, that's a horrible way for all of us to live. If maybe, I don't know, maybe it's fine.
I had a similar thought. All I can think with the recording, like, if you are, I don't know, you're like scuba, like doing some sort of adventure sport or something, and it's more convenient potentially with a GoPro or some sort of attachment, or all I can think of is you're just going to see more Instagram reels and whatever they're called on TikTok of just the I don't know, outside a big box store, and like, I'm going to say it's in the US because all the videos I've seen are in the US of somebody going, you can't film here, and then there's about a 20-minute standoff and the police turn up and say it's public, they can film. All I can see is that just being a huge category of video rising.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, the value there has nothing to do with the AI. It has to do with the hidden camera.
Yeah.
Like, there's no AI use in that.
I mean, I went to a Google event a decade ago now, right, where they had the beta, the Google Glass. And I remember putting them on, and I was just like, at that stage, oh my God, I can look at something in Spanish or French and it will auto-translate it, and there's a map thing. And I thought, oh, this is great. Now I'm looking at, but I don't understand how that would have probably benefited me. Now looking at it, it's like, one of my favorite things to come out of CES is because I think it's absurd. It's the it's that robot. It's not the robot vacuum with a little arm. It's another robot vacuum they've done, and it's got like a security camera, an air purifier, a support tray. This like it can carry stuff, deliver stuff around the house. And I just
Got a
look at it,
link.
and I just think every time I look at it and I saw it, I thought, can you remember the episode of The Simpsons where Homer designed a car?
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's that. It's the what can we bolt onto this to make it the bell whistle kitchen sink model? And it's just, I mean, I've never known. I mean, I get the little vacuum. I get the thing that can push socks out of the way. I can get the thing that the little arm that might tap your cat before it decides to attack it, kind of thing, like giving it a chance to move. But a portable air purifier, a pure portable security camera, it just feels a bit.
I did used to have a robot vacuum cleaner, and one of the things that killed it frequently was if I left a USB cable lying across the floor. It seemed totally confused by a USB cable. And I mean, I don't know why I'm picking on USB cable. It could have been any cable. Basically, I've got cables, phone cables across the room, and it's just always kind of going, I've encountered a problem. I tried to eat a cable. But so, yeah, I am kind of very much in favor of a future where I don't have to worry about a phone cable lying across the floor in my bedroom.
Except that, Dan, like, I think it's probably just really good marketing, because a robot vacuum would have already had a camera on it that it could call a security camera, and it would have already had an air filter. Like, my vacuum has a HEPA air filter that filters all the air that it vacuums up. Those things actually already exist on most robot vacuums.
Being someone who lives in a 4-story house with a lot of stairs, the thought of getting a robot vacuum fills me with dread, because all I can remember is, I think it was during about 3-4 years ago, Jamie Indigo put a screenshot up. Her Roomba had said something like, I've fallen off a cliff. And she took a picture of it, and it just slightly teetered over a stair and was looking down the abyss. And it was just like, I don't need that level of drama in my life. I work in SEO. I've got enough.
Just dragging this back to SEO briefly, and with Gerry, I think this opens up so many new avenues for things like, I'm wearing a set of smart glasses and I'm looking down the high street and I want to know which is the best reasonably priced Thai restaurant within 5 minutes walk, yada, yada, yada. And the AI bit is the fuzzy querying and then the cutting through the consideration set. And there are so many scenarios where I will do a search in context, in situ, where it's not going to be productive to do it with a phone and scroll through TripAdvisor for 20 minutes. It's not going to be productive to Google something and try and whittle it down. It's the same kind of stuff we're going to increasingly see people using ChatGPT and Perplexity for, that kind of just solve my problem in transit. And glasses as a form factor, actually for that, are uniquely well suited, because the context of where am I and where am I looking is super critical.
I love the fact that Jono's got an AI webcam that every so often just scrolls across slightly. But the other thing on top of that, it'll also know whether or not it's busy, because Google knows which places are busy. It knows whether.
Because they're a monopoly.
Yes. But if you combine all this information as a user, I'd be really happy to find a restaurant that will fit me and 8 suddenly random friends that have turned up for a quick meal, and they're not too busy. It's going to be good priced and it's vegan friendly, because there's always going to be 2 vegans in the group who are just going to be there. So personally, I'm actually looking forward to the future of cool glasses, provided that they're done right. And it's not that thing where we kind of, somebody mentioned Minority Report in the adverts, in the adverts, somebody mentioned Minority Report in the YouTube comments, but, you're walking down the street and suddenly it's an advert for hair loss because, it knows that my hairline is receding, and it'll be personalized adverts on every billboard. It will be something weird and wonderful. It'll suddenly be that, we've got the links injected into our eye line from what we're doing. It's going to be this monopolistic behavior all over again.
I was going to say, links being injected into the eye, I think, will be a much bigger problem than just links being underlined. And
you know what I mean?
Bring back the underlined links. Yeah. We'll crave them.
Yeah, bring back the start of tyranny, not the current tyranny, because that was better and less tyrannical. So my face took a shock because I've just read the private chats that you sent Jono prior to recording about otters, and now I'm slightly scarred. We're not going to repeat that.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were definitely made. I'm happy that you got the right chat with that one. Any more thoughts on CES before we move on? I think it has been a bit underwhelming, and I mean, when you've got
But devices aren't where the new exciting stuff is happening, right? It's all the ephemeral AI middleware stuff where the hype train is.
It's all in the cloud.
all the Musk robots. Do we want to talk about the Musk robots we saw?
Tesla bots.
The Tesla bots. Yeah, that's it.
I haven't seen much about them, but considering the fact that he wants to invade Britain, it's not worrying at all.
What are the Tesla bots? Explain.
Do you remember? Did you ever watch Iron Man 2, where all the autonomous robots came? It basically had a vibe like that a little bit.
And he's made them and he's producing them?
Yeah, there's loads of close-ups of like one making cocktails quite jankily and producing stuff, and like a little army of them all kind of Clone War style walking into a hall. And
he's probably already brokered a deal with Trump to sell millions to the US.
Is anybody else thinking iRobot?
They did kind of look a little bit like the little Honda bot kind of crossed with an iRobot robot. Yeah. What were the iRobots called?
I don't know. I think they were called. Yeah. I read the book, watched the movie.
It was a good movie before its time. Right, we've definitely diverged there, right? As Jono said, taking it back to SEO.
We definitely can't talk about the politics because that would be a bit too divisive, especially with an American sat in the room. But I am quite enjoying reading Musk's tweets right now. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, God.
I mean, they're apocalyptic.
I know, it's great. I mean, we've got a James Bond villain, just absolutely perfect. It's just amazing, considering we've got somewhere between Trump, Bond, and it's basically evil Iron Man meets like a cartoon president meets, you know, the Russian president. I mean, I'm going to get assassinated if I carry on talking.
Yeah, I mean, it would be whimsical if it wasn't actually happening.
I mean, the two sides to this are, we'll go very off topic if you carry on. You'll probably get assassinated. But I mean, when I run this through and make all the clips, there'll be some absolute stonkers in there. We'll get some views. So I think it's just weighing up whether or not that's worth the payoff, Gerry. Anyway,
let's talk about Google and the updates that happened over the holidays.
Yes, but nicely timed December update. Do you want to kick that one off, Cindy?
Well, I think we've had some updates over the holidays before, but I think this was probably a record number. And there were some that weren't even really announced. So the local SEO people lost their minds last week because Google just changed something with the local algorithm and map packs, and every tweet that I read looked like it was just a mistake. Looked like someone kicked the wrong, computer, and local packs just got totally broken for a couple days. And I think that they are still broken, and broken in a way that's really unjustifiable and hasn't been addressed from what I've seen by Google. If anyone knows more about this that's watching the live, feel free to add something into the comments. But have you guys seen this, or you guys are totally tuned out of local?
I mean, I do a bit in local, but I've not seen anything near the level of disruption which people have been reporting on Twitter. And I'm talking looking at a few national chains across the UK and stuff like that, or a few hundred. So I've not seen it as of yet. So I'm not sure whether or not it's affected UK and some niches as much as it has others. But yeah, I mean, if it is a mistake, I can understand it in their examples. If it's a permanent shift, that looks weird, I guess, is probably the way I'd say it, because I don't understand the logic as to why you would make that purposefully. But yeah, I'm not seeing the same. I mean, it might just be niche and mileage of areas, doesn't it? Let's be honest. Yeah,
but I mean, other than the local stuff, I think the other updates that happened over the holidays weren't big enough for everyone to freak out. They were spam updates that didn't seem to impact a lot of SEOs that I follow. Did you guys see any losses or gains or any major changes from any of the updates?
I've been mainly working with UK clients. I've not seen a huge amount in the UK at all recently. It's been much more flatter than I was expecting, considering how Google's been.
everything I've seen that looks like it could correlate with anything at the start of the year, end of the year. I mean, I know whilst I was off, I think Search Engine Land put out a headline that was a December unconfirmed update happening kind of thing right at the end of the month. But I can't, everything that I'm seeing declining has been declining since previous core updates and just seems like a continuation. And I'm not seeing anything jutting one way or the other to kind of say different, really.
I think I saw a couple people reporting that some sites that had been hit by helpful content were starting to recover with some of these spam updates, this one and the previous one. So that's potentially good news. But we're not getting a lot of communication from Google about what they were targeting or anything from what I've seen.
I think when it comes to the helpful content update, I think they've got I think that meeting that Danny Sullivan had, which then got reported and spoken about, I think after that, they're probably being very oversensitive in any communications they put out relating to that update because, well, I mean, that and a couple of updates pretty much killed businesses and it killed institutions. That meeting and everything I've read about it doesn't sound like it went positive from this side of the fence perspective. So I'd say they're very hesitant to say anything about it now publicly because, well, it's almost lawsuit territory in some cases, potentially.
Yeah. Whatever they do publicly, they'll have to give it a new name and call it something that doesn't sound at all like helpful content update so that they can act like it's a different thing, a different project.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm just looking through some of Lily Ray's stuff now because I know she's quite hot on it. But the other thing which is interesting around that is actually something that Lily Ray, and I think you put it in the WhatsApp chat we've got, Cindy, that there's still domains being cited in AI overviews that were penalized. Was it the helpful content or was it the Parasite update? Have I got two updates confused?
I think it's helpful content. So people that lost all their traffic and rankings during helpful content are still being cited in AI overviews. So what that tells us is that at some level, these are still two different systems. Even though Google has said that the helpful content thing is no longer a system, it's part of core. But how is that possible? That means that whatever is creating the AI overviews is definitely not part of core.
Yeah, it's a fancy aside thing, definitely.
Yeah, that has a long caching lifetime.
And of course, Google being Google, there's going to be about 6 different systems that don't really talk to each other. I mean, it's one of those classic things where Google will kind of create something, spin it off, and it sounds bad, but they'll almost forget how it works because Google will then do something on one side, and it'll be. I've had conversations with people from Google when the knowledge panel had the wrong image for something, and they were like, "We actually don't know how to update this." And it's like, well, how did the wrong image? I mean, we all remember when Greg's, for instance, had their main image in the knowledge box, which said basically a terribly offensive thing about Greg's own brand appearing there. And Greg's were a bit like, yeah, we need to get this fixed up. And Google spent quite a long time trying to fix it up. Just Eat had a similar kind of example where it wasn't quite as bad because it wasn't an offensive expression, but we actually had the French logo. I think I reached out to you, Jono, about it, and we couldn't figure it out. We were reaching out to Google and they were a bit like, oh yeah, it's all automatic and it will fix itself probably. That lasted 2 or 3 weeks. And we were like, but it's the French logo in for the English search results. Why can you not get this fixed up? And I reached out to the paid people. They're like, oh, we can't talk to the organic people. I reached out to the organic people. They were like, oh, that's a team that over there, we'll reach out to them. And it just kind of carried on around for a long, long while.
Well, that's the case. I mean, it's not just in knowledge panel things. I mean, a good example I keep referring to in the UK when clients say, oh, this image is wrong, is the fact that we still have professional sports teams in the UK being pulled through into Google's fancy features and all the rest of it, demolishing traffic to other resources where they can't even understand how to pull through a club logo or a club crest, and they're just displaying a faint grey thing, and they just don't seem to have to process that even at a macro level for national elements.
The other thing that's happening that SEOs might care about is stuff is happening with TikTok today. In the US, they're going to decide whether TikTok is banned in 9 or 10 days. And there's a guy from Shark Tank, what's his name? O'Leary, Kevin O'Leary. who has offered to buy TikTok so that it's not associated with the Chinese government, or so that a US portion of it is not. And I think that ties in with something that I was talking about earlier this week, which is like, I think we don't talk about it enough, how people are using streaming content on the internet, like TikTok videos and like Instagram Reels, as they're in the same way that we used to watch TV. So like, I've kind of been defeated at the end of the day and going, oh, there's nothing on the internet right now. Like, kind of like you would say there's nothing on TV, or I would say I've been watching too much Instagram. And I think TikTok plays a lot into it. The short form video plays a lot into it, but also it comes into, if it's come up in conversations where it's like, if brands are not able to use Google for a discovery platform, where do they go? And I think the answer is obviously these short form video, TikTok influencer, things like that, and ranking for queries there. So if someone searches for, beauty products or, whatever in TikTok, like, and you have that and you're struggling with discovery and visibility in Google, you need to be those places. But that's relevant much more for e-commerce than anything else. Would you guys agree with that?
100%. Like for discovery, if you're not in those ecosystems, there's no way you catch any of the rest of the funnel, right? People go on entire journeys, they articulate problems, they consume content, they find brands, they get right to the point of making a purchase decision. And the only time they're ever going to get back out to Google is if like they're in a TikTok or ecosystem that doesn't have direct conversion. And increasingly those platforms do. For that kind of, I fancy a thing in this category, let's go see what's good. Oh, this one looks fun, hit me up. So little of that will happen in a way that looks conventionally like SEO. You absolutely have to be playing in TikTok and those other platforms.
The only thing someone would go to Google for is if they wanted to search blah, blah, blah reviews and get external, like, real
an editorial curated overview, which they can then pick and choose to. Yeah.
I'm still looking in TikTok for like reviews of a hotel now, for instance. It's terrible, but I'm looking at, if I'm like going back to Antalya, the conference in the Yama's organizing, I'll be looking at the hotel in TikTok first, almost, because often it's a better viewpoint than anywhere else. I go to YouTube and it just feels a bit stale and a little bit rubbish and a little bit like commercial videos. TikTok is very, I know, influencers, but it's often quite gritty and quite realistic, and they are quite honest.
I think influencers are the future.
I think what's interesting, I've got the live ticker from The Guardian up on one of the screens, kind of looking at what's going on. And I think, especially what the British press is reporting on this at the moment, it very much feels like the US case for banning it is against. It's all trying, as Cindy said, it's Chinese government related, and they're using phrases not like that the Chinese government could weaponize TikTok at any point. But one of the more interesting ones, which has just come out, just about 40 minutes ago, is somebody was asked in the court as to whether or not it would actually be enforced and whether or not the incumbent president could actually prevent it being enforced. And the honest response given in the back is there is a enforcement discretion. So it could actually be given that Trump could direct a non-enforcement, but even if it doesn't get the ban doesn't get enforced legally, the Apple Store and Play Store could still remove the app, deeming it too much, deeming it too much as a risk. So it's still an interesting element to go. And even though Trump originated the idea of a ban, that was a key part of his election this year. Like TikTok and the audience there and the marketing base. So it's almost like I didn't like this. He now favors it. He now stands against it because he's seen it. And it's almost being positioned as this legislation is almost like an achievement of Biden. It's not something I want to stand with. It's a proper turncoat approach to it, but
that was a lot of misinformation on TikTok that came out after the fact, which is also relevant from what came out of Meta this week. But Jono, I interrupted you and I wanted to apologize. What did you want to say? We were talking on TikTok.
Oh, you mentioned YouTube. I think, did you see the announcement? Was it this week? The chief, is it Neil Mohan? Like saying essentially, there is a ton of stuff coming in the pipeline and not to underestimate the role of YouTube in the coming years. I completely agree. I think there were some stats recently saying YouTube video consumption has now overtaken Netflix in terms of hours of TV. Not completely get it. It's the same kind of different media consumption that we see between generations. I watch far more YouTube than I watch Netflix across a whole bunch of categories, and I see that increasing. So it's not just the short form video, but also longer form and YouTube specifically. There's a ton of stuff coming down the pipeline with AI, with curation, with the creator economy. I think they're going to double down. It's going to be huge. Again, more still.
Yeah.
Gerry, you don't look convinced.
What do people watch on YouTube?
Oh my gosh, so much.
What?
You just have to have a niche interest, and you can find an influencer that's dedicated their life to that niche.
I am watching a lot of things on like how to use AI for this, or because AI is one of those things which I'm learning about. But beyond that, yeah. Alessia has never watched Netflix. I have actually cancelled my Netflix subscription because it's not compatible with my projector anymore. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Stupid things like that. But anyway, I'm going off. I could rant for about half an hour here.
But my point is, what do people watch on YouTube? It's literally
other than this.
I mean, other than this. And thank you to people
Robot vacuum cleaner reviews.
Yeah. Well, there's literally, I would say you'd struggle to find at least one creator not creating niche content on one thing. I mean, creator economy is just huge in that sense, and there's everything from lo-fi video. You know what it is. I think you just baited now, Gerry. You just baited me into this with that comment.
I do watch too much YouTube. My partner watches too much YouTube, but I'm just curious as to what people do watch on it, rather than just weird crime drama stuff. Anyway,
I'm watching like things that are easily trying to sell me products and that sometimes work, right? So like shopping hauls, because I like fashion. So women will go and buy a bunch of things, try it on for the camera, talk about the pros and cons, return most of it and say, I'm keeping this and this. And like, it's for like this shape body or that thing, or I love the color pink or whatever it is. And there's like a creator for that, creating just content like that.
Right now, you're really selling me Netflix.
So interesting to build off that, then, Cindy, kind of going and like very scarily taking this back to a Google thing. So given that that's the content you consume, I'm sure millions of other people consume that style of content as well. Google's virtual try-on AI kind of functionality and things like that they've showcased. Is that something you're looking forward to being introduced into Google's functionalities, or?
I wouldn't say I'm not looking at it, but I think it's going to be additive. I don't think it's going to take away from creator content. Because I still care about, does the dress have pockets and stuff like that? And not just a yes or no, but like, are they good pockets? Things like that. And that's what you get from someone who's a real human, who's trying something on and telling you about it versus seeing it on a model. Same with like fabric quality and stuff like that. I know I'm probably the only one that cares in this panel about those things, but I do, and I spend money.
No, I like quality. I like pockets. As a man, pockets are important.
My immediate question there was, what makes a good pocket?
You even have to hold a cell phone. That's the test. They put their cell phone in it.
But the other side of it is, do we trust Google to maintain a product short term, let alone long term? The amount of products in Google's graveyard, from Dan's pair of Google glasses through to Jono's Stadia, through to My Eye Google, through to everything else that they kill quite quickly. And I'm talking about a couple of years investing in media to kind of produce this kind of quality. I'm a big believer that basically we should be investing in virtual reality type experiences. But I've got a really, really strong feeling that the more that we invest in something that's kind of a media, it needs the support and future of it. I mean, Google Voice is pretty terrible. And for a long time, we've been saying it will come round. And actually, I think we're at the point where it might actually start working better. But Gemini Voice, I have arguments with it more often than I should do. And I don't really understand why some of the things that I thought would be core basics are just missing at the moment. My point is that this virtual try-on will be great, but will they maintain it or will it get killed?
And you know, people have tried virtual try-on. I think the virtual try-on is more a win for medium-sized brands and maybe even big brands than it is for consumers, because there's been so much social pressure for brands to be more inclusive with the models. And at least for women's clothes, now every brand hires like 5 different models and does 5 different photo shoots for one piece of clothing for different sizes. And they might believe that they don't have to do that as much.
Yeah. Well, it'll be yeah, it's a cost saving. Like,
yeah, for the businesses.
No,
I've actually got a great example on my own blog where basically I've got virtual lipstick on. It's definitely not my color, but you know, I'll share that later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for sharing you with lipstick on, Gerry. Oh, would you look at that? You've shared it in the chat. Shall I put it on my YouTube chat?
Yep.
Okay, this will not that this video is monetized anyway, but Gerry with lipstick. This is going to absolutely tank viewer numbers. So on that,
I just got the picture. If you're clicking the link, you have to scroll.
You do look confused as well.
It wasn't my color. I was trying to find the best color, and clearly that wasn't it.
oh, you have got to do a bit of scrolling, haven't you? Yeah.
I think it's the same color Cindy's wearing at the moment, actually.
Looks better on me.
You see, this is where the meta glasses would come into handy, because I'm colorblind, so I could go, am I looking at 2 lipsticks of the same shade here? And they'd probably come back and say, I don't understand why this man's wearing lipstick and looks confused about it.
I think facial hair and lipstick is never really a good combination. That's all I'm going to say.
Right, we're now delving too far into a political spectrum, which I think even we should avoid. So on that cheery note of Gerry in lipstick, sorry everybody who's followed that link and scrolled, I think dropping this video a like just for Gerry in lipstick is worth it. But if you have enjoyed this session of the SEO Huddle, we might do some more live again in future, especially if I don't mess up the first 30 seconds like I did this time. Please do drop a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to come on this with myself, Cindy, Gerry, Jono, and just basically rant and express opinions on anything going on in Google and marketing, please do reach out. But I want to thank everyone for making time for coming along. Alicia, I think you've been with us the entire 52 minutes. Appreciate it, really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And everyone else who's been watching and commenting, Jeff, Tech Troublemaker, Dale, anyone else who else might be lurking there as well. But thank you very much, and thank you very much for watching.